I came to this country in the 70s at the age of 19 years old. And I was very, very confused by this huge metropolitan city that was very competitive with everybody rushing around, people preoccupied with getting their own goals met. And I came from a very small town in a communist country where it was very easy to be emotionally connected to other people and quite interdependent because we had to carry water, we had to cut wood, we had to make our own fire to warm up our house. So this was an extremely different setting than what I had grown up with and what I had led to believe about um, life, economics, family, and so on and so forth. So I started looking into various things. I'm extremely curious person, and I discovered the psychology thing. So I decided to look into studying it and also to see therapists to see how this works. Um, and I went to a therapist. It was a big group, and it was a primal therapy where you hit the pillow in order to reach with a baseball bat, in order to reach the primal scream, to release the trauma, to find yourself and to self-connect. I'm a child of Holocaust survivors. I don't have to tell you that anger, violence, loud noises intimidate me. So, but aside from that, um, it just seemed absurd. So I decided to try other therapies. And I have to say, over the years, I had very interesting experiences with therapists. And I have to say that I have seen many, many, many therapists, and not one of them dealt with reality of my situation. Like, not one person addressed the fact that I actually did not understand how society was working. I did not understand my values, how I chose them, and how to choose differently. And every time I went to a therapist, they had their own agenda. And it always involved being traumatized by my parents. Now, my father survived a camp as an orphan. He grew up to have a wonderful marriage. I have never once seen my parents not being supportive of each other and not being patient and trying to understand each other's experience. I have never ever seen him treating any life in any way that would take away the other person's dignity. I never saw him looking down on anybody. I always saw him as being very considerate. These are amazing things to save after growing up in a concentration camp without being able to go to school because he was maybe like 10 years old when he was deported. He ended up going to some night school after he returned, and later on spoke a few languages. He could speak, write English perfectly. He was able to do businesses. He was able to run his own business. Now, why didn't the therapist say to me, don't be scared, don't be confused. Look what your father survived, and look what he was able to achieve. You have a wonderful role model. You have to learn his strength. You have to discuss these things with him and learn from him how to overcome confusion, change in society, change in values. How do you find your own values? How do you hold on to them? No. Instead, they were asking me to hit a pillow and be angry with my father specifically. Why? It just, when I look back, the thing to do is to help me carry on the strength that my parents had to survive and flourish. Not to be angry with them because I was injured somewhere about something I don't even remember. And later, I had a child whose father rejected his responsibility, so my parents helped me raise her. And I was again in a group therapy, a very different group therapy, supposedly focused on intimacy, emotional intimacy and connection, which has always been my goal. I guess ever since I left my original country, I wanted to recapture that vulnerable presence without other intentions behind it. And one day I was in this group, I wasn't in this group for a very long time, but one day I was in the group and I was very listless. And the therapist said to me, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, my daughter is going to have is having a sleepover at my parents' house, and I feel very nervous about it." So she said, "Well, you shouldn't let her see your parents." And that was in the 80s. She didn't ask me, what am I nervous about? She didn't ask me anything about my parents. And I said to her, "Why not?" And she said, "Well, you're in therapy here, aren't you?" And I'm thinking, well, yeah, I'm in therapy because I'm studying psychology. And, the reality was that my father bought a car and he was going to drive my daughter around with my mom. They were going to drive her around to get pastry and buy toys and buy clothes, and she's their princess. And my fear was that my father is so considerate, and we grew up in a small town. How is he going to manage driving in this big metropolitan city on highways? And that he would be maybe so considerate that he would not react timely, and that I could lose the only family I have. But that never got addressed. The focus was on how to defend myself from my parents and protect and save my child. I have to tell you, I am so grateful that I never listened to any of that. My daughter adores her grandparents. They have been a light of her life and compensated for her father's neglect. My father's sense of deep loyalty, care, concern, I think healed and guided her in so many ways. I think it's horrible that so many therapists have this agenda. That supposedly we all are traumatized, we're all defective, and we have to reclaim the way our parents abused us. That is a complete reversal of reality. And my question is, why is it happening? And why is it happening for so many generations?